Welcome everybody to another MB Autohaus tutorial. This is like our 7th episode, and in this tutorial we're going to go over transmission flush for your Mercedes. Unfortunately, this is only for a 5-speed, also known as your 722.6. How do you know if you have a 5-speed or a 7-speed? Those are your two options. A lot of the newer cars are 7 speeds, but a good way of knowing is by shifting through manually with either your steering wheel buttons, if you have those, or the floor shifter. If you've never noticed, on drive there's a plus, a minus, or in your older cars it went all the way up to, I think, down to from 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. But what you do is while you're driving, just go up the gears, and if you have a 5-speed, it's going to go all the way up to 5th gear and straight to drive. If you have a 7-speed, it's going to go all the way to 6 and to drive. So again, this is only for your 5-speed. I will be putting together how to do a service on a 7-speed, but it's going to take a lot of work. So it's always good to watch it first and then see if you can do it yourself. But this one is fairly okay. Some of the tools you will be needing is a funnel, a T30 Torx, a 3-inch or some type of extension. I believe that is a size 4 Allen socket, and some type of a ratchet, and probably something to drain the old transmission fluid into. So here are the parts. We have fluid, filter, gasket, and that little red tab, which you'll see later what it is. So here I've taken the panels off the car. This is a C-Class. Take off the front and rear. As you see there, that is an 8mm bolts that hold these panels in place. So here is our pan that we're going to be removing. First, we have to drain the transmission. You do that by removing this plug here at the end. This is where you use your Allen socket. I believe it's a 4. I will be posting on the comments what it is. Do not be fooled here. This actually had to be broken loose prior to me filming this. They are tough to take off sometimes. It actually will hurt your elbow. So what I do here is I let the fluid drain out. Again, remember, get a splash pan, something to catch the old fluid in. So once it looks like this, that is barely dripping out, I put the plug back in. I tighten it all the way so I don't forget it and possibly cause a transmission leak. So there we go. I'm tightening it. A lot of people always ask me how tight. I mean, tight enough to the point that you know it's not loose. So here are the bolts. There is 6 altogether, 3 on each side. The only one that is different is the one that is towards the right front, and I'll show you that one and what it looks like. There you might, some have a cover on there. This one actually didn't. You just remove the cover prior to taking this off. But right there you see it's a little bit longer, and again it's for that cover that covers your pilot bushing. So here what I do is I like to take all the bolts off and leave the ones in the middle towards the end. So now I've taken the panel down, the pan. Now I'm going to remove the filter. Once you remove the filter, that's where all the fluid actually comes out. If you notice here on the filter, there is like a tab. It's a centering tab. It's what when you put the filter back in, has to go in a certain spot. So here I removed the old pan gasket. This is the new one. The idiot proof only fits one way. So what you want to do is put the new one on, make sure it's secure. You don't need any type of sealer or anything like that. If you have a Mercedes gasket, they're pretty good. So what you want to do is once you have done that, just spin it around, make sure everything's nice and flush. And this is a filter, a close-up, as you can see the little tab there. And that tab goes here on the valve body. You see that little cutout for it. Alright, so here I want to just show you the bolts, what they look like. The brackets that hold it in place. And again, this is the only one that's different out of the 6. That's on your right front, USA models. So I'm going to show you a close-up of how this looks like when you're putting this in. It has the little cutout there, and that's where the pan fits in. As you can see, the gasket wanted to pop up, so you're going to want to hold the pan up while installing this thing in there. So now I'm going to put the filter in. Again, the tab has to fit. It's a centering tab. What I do here is I lubricate the O-ring before I put it in, and you can see the layout, how the filter fits in there, the angle of what it's supposed to fit in. So now I'm going to put the pan back in. Now this is where it gets difficult. While you're holding it up at the same time, you're going to have to get the bolt started. I like to do the ones in the middle, just hand tighten them. And just by doing those two alone, the pan is now held in place. Then I just continue with the other 4. And then what I do is, when I'm putting this together, is I just keep going in diagonal and just tightening the bolts down, making sure that the gasket itself has not rolled by it not being securely in place, or by one of the bolts pushing it out of the groove of what it's supposed to be. So here I go, I'm tightening up all the other bolts. And then once you are done, what you want to do, important to do, is just take a look, make sure that the gasket has not rolled, make sure that everything looks flush, the brackets are flush against the transmission, the bolts are all the way tight. So always make sure to take a second look. Here I'm looking at each individual bolt, bracket, make sure everything's nice and flush. The gasket doesn't look like it's been came out of place or anything like that. Will cause a leak. Even we do them now and then, but you know, especially if you're doing this on the floor of your garage. So here at the top, what you want to do is be towards the rear of the motor by the transmission. Don't confuse this with the oil one, where you suck out, or where your dipstick's supposed to go. So here I am going to remove the cover that should be on the transmission fill port. As you can see, I removed that red, it's like a tab or something. You got to break the head of it, and then you push it all the way through. And there's also an O-ring in there. If you don't have one, it's not a big deal. But here what I like to do is, again, I like to put about 3 3/4 of a quart in and drive it and see what it does. If not, if you want to purchase a Mercedes-Benz dipstick, I believe they sell them on eBay. They're about, like, I think somewhere around $100. But if you don't want to do that, put in about 3.5, close to 4 quarts. Drive it in the morning when it's nice and warm, or when it's you know, at operating temperature. And if you feel some slippage and you didn't before, then I would just put in another 1/2 quart and just continue doing that until you don't feel that anymore. With the kit, just probably need somebody to hold the crank sensor. So now